Peter, Saudi Arabia's King Salman, perhaps the most important power player in the Gulf, has decided to stay home. Why?
Well, on paper, the reason is the timing here. The Saudis say that he wants to remain in Saudi Arabia in part because it coincides with the humanitarian ceasefire that's about to begin in Yemen, or at least supposed to begin. But the reality is that it's hard to look at this as anything other than a signal from the Saudis that they're not thrilled with U.S. foreign policy at the moment, U.S. foreign policy in particular towards Iran and the scope of these nuclear negotiations. And even the White House expected, Eric, that the king was coming as recently as Friday. There was going to be a one-on-one meeting between the king and President Obama at the White House first before the Persian Gulf leaders were head to Camp David. It's not going to happen. And again, it's hard to see this as anything other than a sign, at least a signal of disappointment from the Saudis on where things stand.
All right, Peter, then who's going to take his place? I'm sure there won't be an empty seat at the White House.
No, there'll be two very important players. You've got the Interior Minister, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who will be there, as will be the Deputy Crown Prince, who is the King's son. These are the two people arguably pulling most of the levers in the Saudi government right now, and the heirs apparent to the King. So these are critical players and people that the U.S. wants to get a better fix on, a better handle on, a better understanding of where they see themselves. So important people to be sure, but it's not the King. And this is a difficult moment right now, U.S.-Saudi relations, and this is an indication of how fragile it is right now. But the fact that these two are attending is seen by some maybe a positive in the sense that they do get a better feel for who these new leaders in Saudi Arabia, what's going on in their minds as well.
Now, Peter, that's happening later in the week. Today, the president is holding a meeting with some business leaders, including the co-founder and CEO of Airbnb, Brian Chesky.
That's right. The president's trying to spark entrepreneurship, not just in the United States, but around the world. And he's expanding on an effort to really talk about global entrepreneurism. And he wants to get U.S. CEOs, tech leaders involved, again, not just here in the U.S., but around the world. He's naming 8 more global entrepreneurial ambassadors, including the Airbnb CEO. They're going to be meeting at the White House later on today. This is all in the lead-up to the president's trip in July to Kenya for a summit of global entrepreneurs. So the president's going to be talking tech, entrepreneurship, and American success stories, he hopes, later on today at the White House.
Peter, thank you very much. Our Chief Washington Correspondent, Peter Cook.